boys, superstar DJs. Here we go! Hey girls, hey boys, superstar DJs. Here we go! Hey girls, hey boys, superstar DJs. Here we go! Hey girls, hey boys, superstar DJs. Here we go! Hey girls, hey boys, superstar DJs. Here we go! Hey girls, hey boys, superstar DJs. Here we go! Here we go! Hey girls, hey boys, superstar DJs. Here we go!
I'll wait here, shall I?
Here we go! Here we go!
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Crush Live Call-Ins. I am your host here, Bart Hansen, and we do this show every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you want to get on the show, you can do so by emailing me, bart@crushlivepoker.com. That's how you get on the show, bart@crushlivepoker.com. I do give priority to CLP subscribers, or you can hit me up on Discord in CLP. And we're going to be here for 4 or 5 callers here today. It should be a good show. We've got Steven, who was the epic 80-year-old caller here. He's going to call in another hand that he played from that session, this time with a guy that used to play on the Live of the Bike named Keefe. So it should be pretty exciting. I'm going to be in the live chat here as well. I've got a little bit of a different setup here. I'm actually using a better microphone and some earbuds here. Yes, my wife did cut my hair, and she had some fun doing so. I was supposed to actually get like barber shears, like scissors, that I had ordered from Amazon, but they never came. And what we discovered is that if you take the guard off of clippers, like you actually take the guard off and you just hold sort of your hair up, I mean, the unguarded clippers, they sort of act like scissors. I mean, it's not going to be as clean a cut, I would assume, but we did the best that we could. So it was kind of fun. And yeah, I wasn't, just like I'm not super interested in going back to play live poker right now. I wasn't super interested in going back to my barber shop really at the moment either. So there's that. Anyways, let's get into it here for Monday, June 1st. Monday, June 1st. And let's start with a caller in the 541. You are up first, sir. Hello.
Hey, Bart. How you doing? My name's Leland.
Hey,
I've got a
doing,
hand
Leland?
for you. Doing pretty good. I've got a hand from you from Southern Oregon here. Just played at a local card room.
Okay.
It's a 1-2 hand.
Okay.
I am in the big blind.
Okay.
Starts off, there's, I believe, 4 limps. Under the gun limps, he's the main villain in the hand. He happens to be a dealer at the poker room, but I don't really know him. It's been a while since I played. No reads or anything, really. He's bluffed a couple of times, and he's shown up with the goods a couple of times, so nothing too crazy. The rest of the table that limp tends to be weak tight. There are a couple of reshove stacks that have reshoved. They're playing anywhere from like 40 to 80, and I think there's a third one that's even a little bit more than that. And they're kind of face-up ranges when they've shoved have been like maybe 5 plus, 8, 10 off plus. So they go ahead and limp, and it folds to me in the big blind with pocket 7s and spades and clubs. Suits don't really matter for this, but 2 black.
So you just check?
Yeah, so I went ahead and checked, and I'm a little bit curious on this one. It's not something that I normally do. 7s is a reasonably strong hand. But the way the game was playing, I don't think I could have gotten anyone out of the hand realistically by going, say, less than 20 and maybe even 25 after, it gets first person that calls.
Yeah, this is interesting.
The other thing...
let me give you my take on this, too, and I tend to agree. And I played a couple of sessions on Poker Bros throughout the week, for content. And our club actually moved unions into what's called this Diamond Union, which, if anybody know Poker Bros, is sort of the softer of the unions, where it's a lot of recreational players. And I was playing 1-2 full ring, and I just saw so much limping, and it reminded me so much of live play.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also been doing a fair amount of contracting work, doing short deck training videos for a company that I work for too. And what's interesting, and the reason why I bring that up, is that in short deck, which is 6+ hold'em, you playability and visibility of your hand is very, very important. We don't really think about it that much in hold'em, but with a sort of a medium to small pair, I mean, I would rather raise with like king queen off here. Just because of its visibility and playability. It's just like unless you flop a set, you're inherently going to be out of position, and you're going to have overcards. The reason why I bring up short deck is that because short deck is played rather short in terms of antes, you can think of that like big blinds.
Right.
A lot of the times when you're 40 or 50 antes deep, you're just folding with these you're just shoving or folding with these hands that are hard to play. And in short deck, a hard hand to play is actually like ace king and ace queen. Those are hard hands to play, and easier hands to play are like 8-9, even 8-9 offsuit, which is kind of funny because all the name of the game is straight. But here, it's kind of the same thing. So where would my cutoff be? I might start to raise 9s, and if it's really call happy, maybe start to raise 10s. I have no problem with checking.
Yeah.
So you check, okay.
Well, and that was kind of my thought too. I might even raise 8s in certain circumstances, but the way that 7s, even 8s, even occasionally 9s play, you want top pair value. I want top pair, good kicker, better is generally kind of what I'm looking for, specifically against short players.
Right.
To where I don't have to worry about what the pot size is. It's, if I see bet and they shove on me, fine. If they check and call 2 streets, the money's in, fine. I'm not worried about it. The playability and, like you said, the visibility is really good. But specifically with the small pocket pairs, unless you flop a set, I mean, the boards aren't great. Maybe an open-ended straight or something, but it's super minimal. Your good flops are few and far between.
So what's the flop?
So the flop comes out 3-3-6 rainbow. and I'm first to act. I think the pot was initially 12. The drop, it's down to 9.
Okay.
That was the other reason I didn't raise, is because if I raise to 5, then it takes more out of the pot.
Well, unless you win
so
unless you win the whole pot, like uncontested. But okay,
Right.
so it's 3-3-6. Even
Right.
before you even go on to say what happens, there's always I always have to point out in these situations that sometimes people don't rightly realize that when you're in a game like this, especially if you see some limp re-raising, the under the gun can always have a big pair. Just as
Right.
a note. Just as a note, if somebody under the gun limps, part of their range are big pairs. But anyway, so it's 3-3-6.
Right.
I would probably just come out and bet here for protection.
And that's exactly what I did. The pot was small. There's only $9 in the pot on the flop, so I went ahead. I just let out for 5. I by far have the most 3x. I'm going to have obviously all of the 4-5 suited and offsuit. I've got a lot of equity with these hands, and I don't have that many bluffs, so I think 7s is a reasonable hand to just come out, try to strike a little bit, and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure if any. I can get on board with what you're trying to say in the theory and stuff, but the reality of, I'm not really sure if that stuff really matters at this level. To be perfectly honest with you, thinking about. I mean, it's good theoretically to think about what you can have and balance, and you could even make a case. Some people might even make a case from a theoretical point of view that there are certain boards you shouldn't lead out on. This is probably one that you can lead out on for the reasons you say, but just don't overthink it. You know what I mean? You're gonna get called here by a 6.
Yeah, I tend to.
So yeah. So you bet $5, okay?
Yep, I bet 5. The end of the gun player that limped, the poker dealer, he goes ahead and he calls.
Okay.
The 4 others fold. So we're heads up into the turn.
Okay.
The turn comes a red 7. So the board is still completely rainbow. No flush draws to worry about.
By the
And
way,
obviously,
how deep did you guys start? That's important, and I don't think I have that info.
Oh, yeah, that is important. We started about 600 effective for 1-2. I had the villain covered for this.
So this is really interesting here, because you're very deep, and your stacked pot ratio is very, very high because there was no raise pre, right? So I mean, according to my math, the pot's $19 on the turn. You guys have like $580 left. So you're talking about a stacked pot ratio of 25 to 30. When you get into those spots, sometimes you have to be a little bit creative to get the most amount of money into the pot. Now, when this guy calls next to act, I mean, if you say he's a dealer, he probably could be wide, but I would tend, even though usually poker dealers aren't good players, I would tend to discount the fact that he has like something really light, like ace high floats or something, because he had 3 or 4 people left to act to his left. So what are his holdings most likely? Well, could be 6, could be an overpair, could be a 3, could be 4 5. Those are some of the things I would start to think about.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I arranged them into. I figured there's going to be a handful of overpairs. There's going to be a couple, probably not a ton of 3x, certainly some 6x, maybe as strong as pocket 6s for a boat. Is I think probably the absolute top of his range, I guess, other than 3-3. But yeah, just a lot of overpairs was my assumption. So I went ahead and checked, thinking that he's pretty much mandatory, has to have some sort of made hand, and those hands are going to be value betting. He bets 15 into 19, and I went ahead and I check raised to 60.
So yeah, I mean, that's not a bad. I mean, that's not a bad way to think about the hand. I think that you have 2 options, right? You could bet with the intention of trying to bet 3-bet the turn. You got to get more money in, right? You have to take the betting lead away because and you have to take the betting lead away because so many people check back. Like, God forbid if you were to say just like check call or bet get raised and then just call and try to go for a check raise on the river, overpairs check back. You don't want to do that in this situation. There is no real advantage to giving up the betting here when so many people check back on the river. So, you could do what you did, which is basically go for a check raise and assume that all those hands are going to bet off and you can get a raise in and get a call, which I think is quite a fine play. Or you could do something where you make like the same bet, like $5 again, in order to get a raise so that you can 3-bet. I have no problem with you check raising here. I might go a little bit larger. I mean, you went to 60, which is 4x. I might make it like 85. One of the things that I want to say is that, and I can't stress this enough in small stakes live poker, is that right now the pot is small. It's too small to think about the pot size in terms of percentages of bet. So,
Right.
when you come out and you bet $5 into a $3, or let's say you bet $6 into a $3 pot at 1-2, that's a 200% pot size bet. That's not the same as betting even like $400 into a $500 pot at 1-2, which is 80% of the pot. It's the actual size of
The absolute money
the
value.
money.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I think you might be able to get away with doing this even more, like 75, 85, 90, even though technically it's over a pot size bet. You just want to get more money in. But okay, you 4x it. Okay.
He goes ahead. He thinks for just a moment, calls relatively quickly. And then the river comes out, and it's super interesting. So the river is a 3. So now there's the board's 3, 3, 3, 6, 7.
Okay. So the pot is about 140-ish, right?
140, 140,
Yeah.
139, 140
Yeah.
for the pot.
Yep.
And I was thinking about it, and I think what I opted to do is I did just a tiny overbet. I bet 145 into 140.
So,
Had a little
well, all right.
basically thinking.
Let's think about what his turn range is, right? Like when he bet calls your check raise. I think that it is going to be an overpair, right? It's going to be possibly pocket sixes, which you beat. It's going to be 4-5, which you're not going to get any more action from, right? Because on the river, because there's trips. And then I guess he might have some threes, but logically, like there's only really one combo of ace 3, right? Ace 3 suited. I don't know if you think this guy's bad enough to limp ace 3 off, but
I do. I think he's wide enough to limp ace 3 off. I think he's wide enough to limp 3-4 suited, 2-3 suited, 3-5.
I don't think that
I think there's more than just the single ace 3 for sure.
I don't think
but
there's
I don't
anything.
think that there's a massive amount.
I don't think there's anything wrong with what you've done here by making an overbet. I think I would probably take it for larger though. Here's the thing, like I said, you kind of want. I feel like you might even want to get tricky with this and check the river, because this actually is a spot where maybe all overpairs bet if he's got kings, and then you just check jam on him. But it would be a disaster for some reason if they check it back, like scared of a 3 when you check raise turn. So I honestly, like, I would probably bet like 300 here into 140. I probably would have gone 15 to like 85 if he called. The pot would have been like maybe 200, and then I probably would 2x here at the end. 2x, because and then the crazy part of this is that, like, if you ever got jammed on here, well, I guess you really can't fold because you only have 300 left. And actually, you know what? I wouldn't even feel bad about calling, because maybe he thinks an overpair's the nuts. He doesn't even understand like the hand value.
Right.
You know.
Well, see, and that's where I was at. Like, I think being a dealer, that he's going to understand the situation maybe more than just like a bad wreck, right? Like just someone who's only been in there a couple of times, doesn't really know what's going on. I think with being a dealer, he's going to understand that a little bit more.
Right.
And being that we still had, like close to 500-ish, roughly, maybe even a little bit more total in play. My plan was actually to basically bet large and then fold to a jam, thinking that he's going to have to call with like aces, kings, and basically any of the big overpairs. Maybe he folds something like 9s or 10s, but even then, probably not.
So what happened?
So, get max value from a big bet. He ended up min raising. He ended up clicking back on me. So it goes 145 to 290. And that was another spot where I was just, to be honest, I was pretty confused, because he never has a pure bluff here, right? It's not like 4-8 suited or, some junk hand, or 2-4 suited or something like that just decides that I don't have it. Like, he's not going to try to take me off of a full house here, I don't think. So I beat 6s, which he could maybe overvalue and play this way. I beat aces and kings, which he shouldn't have too often, but maybe he's got a combo.
I gotta tell you, I gotta tell you, I think I jam here. But I think I just
You jam?
yeah, I 3-bet all in. Yeah, I mean, if he's got a 3, so what? But he's not gonna fold any of the hands that he's overvaluing here. And I really do think if he's got like aces or 6-6 here, that he very well might make this play. Now I guess if he doesn't
Right.
have a 3 in his hand, maybe it looks like you might not have a 3 and you did check raise turn, and you're betting at the end, so you lead flop, and I just, obviously you're never going to fold. It really just comes down to whether or not you want to call or jam. I mean, you have about 200 left. If you were to call the 290, you've got about 200 left. So he's going to be getting incredible pot odds. There is no raise fold of any value hand for him. So I think in this spot, I got to be honest with you, I just don't really see many 3s here. If he's got king 3 or ace 3 off, so be it. But I do think it's close, but I think at 1-2 I jam. What did you end up doing?
Okay. I thought about it for a moment. To be honest, I actually considered folding just because I think there aren't enough bluffs here. Sid ended up flipping a quarter, made the call, and he showed 3-5.
So hero calls.
But there was just a lot of spots where I ended up being a little bit just not standard of a hand. I don't lead out very often. I don't limp pocket pairs very often. It just kind of ended up being a weird hand, but I thought it was kind of interesting.
So people, again, live chat, what worse hands are calling you if you jam the river? How about any overpair, buddy? Hector Simpson.
Any overpair.
Yeah.
Aces, kings,
that
queens,
raises
limp,
or
limp
6-6. You know what I mean? It's
or
1-2.
6-6,
Yeah. These. That's a little interesting spot. I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So you lost less money than I would have. All right, let's go to 908. Again, I am in the live chat, and I do get frisky sometimes with the live chat, sometimes too. But let's go to our next caller here in the 908. You're up next, sir.
Hey, Bart, it's Brian.
Hey, what's up, Brian?
How are you?
Good.
Yeah, so I have a hand from almost a year ago. It was played out of Potawatomi Casino in Milwaukee.
Okay. I've heard of that before. Is that the only casino in Milwaukee really where poker goes on?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. So this is a 2-5 hand.
Mm-hmm.
About 1,100 effective.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a $10 straddle that is on.
Okay.
So there are 2 limps, and then a player in middle position raises to 55. I have Jack 10 of hearts on the button, and I flat.
All right,
and
so Jack of hearts, 10 of hearts, button, flat. So the straddle is from up front, right? I'm assuming, like in the UTG spot?
Under the gun.
Okay.
Yep.
So 2 limps, MP1 to 55, hero flats on the button, Jack 10 of hearts, okay.
Yep, and then the straddle calls, and then one of the limpers calls.
So just before we get to the flop, I mean, obviously, I think that calling here is fine, but one of the sort of newer school thoughts and one of the things that I definitely have changed about my game here is that you're definitely incentivized to 3-bet here and drive the limpers out. And just always playing a hand like this is going to show a little more of a profit heads up than multi-way. Whereas maybe sometimes lower pairs actually might show more of a profit play multi-way than heads up. But like a hand like this is just going to basically flop really well in terms of barreling just any type of equity here. You might want to consider 3-betting this more often. Now, of course, you're incentivized to call the button, but it's just because of the limpers here. Like if it is to come from like early position 1, maybe not. Maybe you just, maybe you just flat. But there's also dead money out there with the straddle. But that's just something to be said. So the straddle calls and the limper calls.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I think I do 3-bet that. Sometimes. I mean, I think I felt this time just because I was on the button, I wanted to see a flop in position.
So it's 3 ways, right?
Yeah, it's 4 ways.
You're on the button, straddle calls, and 2 of the limpers call?
Or just one of the limpers calls.
So it's through MP1, button, straddle. Oh, okay. Okay. So 4 ways.
Yeah,
Okay.
4 ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the flop comes ace of diamonds, Jack of spades, 7 of hearts.
Okay. So ace of diamonds, jack of spades, 7 of hearts. So you flop middle pair and a backdoor flush draw.
Yep.
Okay.
So the flop checks all the way through.
So checks through. So you're last to act, right? Like after MP1.
Yep.
There's nobody in between you and MP1, right? Like
Correct.
okay. That's just something to note because obviously you don't know what the straddle or the limper have. They could have an ace, but usually when the pre-flop raiser is first to act post-flop, and then he checks, and then people sort of check to his left, I would definitely be more apt to bet for a little bit of protection in a spot like this, but you still sort of don't know what the straddler and the limper are just basically naturally checking. So I don't have a problem with that. Okay, so you check it, and it gets checked through.
Yeah, so the turn is an interesting card. It's the 9 of hearts, so it gives me a backdoor flush draw and also straight draw.
Right. Ace of diamonds, jack of spades, 7 of hearts, 9 of hearts. Straight flush draw to the 8, right?
Right.
Okay.
So now the straddle leads for 150.
Okay.
And then the limper folds and the hijack guy in middle position, he folds, and it's back to me. And I decided to just call. I figure his range, he's pretty strong betting into 3 people up front, and he's
just call and take your equity. Where, and again, this is more of an older school live thought. I have made raises like this before, but it would be clearly as a semi bluff, and it would have to basically, you'd have to, know that maybe the straddle doesn't have much feel for like hand strength and is capable of just like folding an ace. Like he's coming out and betting with like, ace 6 because it's top pair, like kind of like 10 years ago, and then he's going to fold to a raise. I mean, that would be why you raise here, is basically to, it's a semi bluff. I don't think he's necessarily going to be leading out. I mean, you can get him off of better jacks, but I don't think he's going to necessarily be leading out here with like king jack, queen jack. It's just something. I mean, you block like you block the nut hand, which is 10-8. So I don't know, something to be said. You definitely made the standard play here, so you call. Okay, 525 to the river. Yeah.
And then the river is another interesting card. It's the queen of hearts.
So it is the queen of hearts. Okay. So you make a flush.
Yep, sorry. Yep, make a backdoor flush.
Yeah.
So this time he leads for about 300.
So he bets 300. Okay.
Yeah. The pot, I think, was around like 500 something at that point. And I think he had me covered by a little bit, and I had about another 600 behind on top of the 300.
Okay, so he leads for 300, and you said he's got about 600 left, basically, after the 300. So if you call here, the pot's 1125, right? If you call here, the pot is 1125, and and he's got 600 left. So if you were to shove, he'd be getting basically 3-1. So again, the board is ace of diamonds, jack of spades, 7 of hearts, 9 of hearts, queen of hearts, and he's bet 300 into 525. I mean, obviously you're not going to have a raise fold button here. This is really interesting here because you've got the jack 10 of hearts in your hand, and the board has the queen of hearts, the 9 of hearts, and the 7 of hearts. So we can visualize this, right? The queen, the jack, the 10, the 9, and the 7 are all accounted for. So you're losing to ace X of hearts, and you're losing to the king of hearts. So where I think this probably becomes a call, and I like to be, like I said, the thinnest value better sort of in the world, is because this guy closed the action in the straddle, and I don't know if you have any information about him, he's going to definitely have more possible hands in the form of king X of hearts. And I'm not just talking about king jack of hearts, king 10 of hearts. I'm talking about like king 4 of hearts, king 6 of hearts. Hands that just aren't going to be represented in the field. right? Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like to a raise, but completing the straddle, it is going to be represented here. So I think that definitely for those reasons, I mean, he might have all the ace X of hearts, which is shit ton of combinations, right? And he might have a lot of king X of hearts. And really, what do you look? I mean, what are the lower flushes here? I mean, 8-6 of hearts, 8-5 of hearts. He'd have to lead those on the turn. So really, by jamming here, he's not going to have a lot of sort of lower flushes. You're trying to get called by like, king 10, 10, 8, some of which you block. I think we have a call here for those reasons.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. What happened?
Yeah. I mean, I ended up jamming, and he snapped me off with the nut flush.
Ace of hearts, X of hearts. I mean, I mean, like I said, I mean, I can, it's always hard to sort of like pull back and, when you make a backdoor flush, but
Right.
it is, it's just one of those things that can definitely be hard. But especially with king X of hearts, I think we have a call here for sure.
Right.
But I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to Gene. Give me 1 second here. Gene, you're up.
Hey, Bart. How's it going?
Good. How's it going, Gene?
All right. So I got a hand here from 5-10 game.
Okay.
Particular hand is straddled to 20, but that's not not every round. So this is just this particular hand.
Okay.
It's 7-handed, and it's about 4,400 effective with the main villain.
Okay.
And the main villain is maniacal, very loose pre, but not your typical like calling everything. He's like 3-betting like any 2 suited cards. He's really like maniacal, and having a horrific session down about 10K at the time. So just for context. So +1, which is middle position, I guess, about 2,100 stack. He limps. He's kind of like a weak type of player. Limps. Hero in hijack with king of clubs, queen of hearts. Raises to 90.
Hero in the hijack, king of hearts, queen of hearts to 90.
King of clubs, queen of hearts.
Oh,
queen off.
King of clubs, queen of hearts. Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Raised to 90. Main villain who's on the button, he calls.
Okay.
Straddle, who's basically a donk and like calls everything pre-flop, he calls also, and the limper calls.
All right. So straddle calls and limper calls. So it's 4 ways.
Limper call. It's 4 ways, yeah. And straddle is also pretty deep, 3,400. So the flop, is 375 and comes out Jack of spades, 10 of diamonds, 7 of spades.
Jack of spades, 10 of diamonds, 7 of spades.
7 of spades, right.
Okay.
So we flop an open-ender, but we have no spades.
Right. Okay.
So it quickly gets checked to hero.
Okay.
And so hero bets half pot, 187 exactly. And I was my first question was like, should we even be betting this? I mean, obviously that's a pretty good flop for a hand, but it's 4 ways and like people are not really folding much, and we got this crazy guy behind us. So do you think we should be betting this flop? Like, is it?
I mean, it's probably pretty close. I mean, if you were to listen, I mean, it's. Would you? Like I said, the theory behind this would be maybe you bet this with the spade in your hand. Maybe you check it if you don't. But you're probably not, in theory, supposed to be betting many 4-way pots anyways. And when you do it, it's supposed to be a very, very small sizing, like something stupid like 100 or something like that. I would tend to think that, 2 over cards here and an open-ended straight draw. I think that I probably would bet more often than not because I want to get myself the button. It's going to make the hand more advantageous if we're in position through the rest of the hand, because we might be basically allowed to kind of realize our equity. Like if we just sort of check it through and then there's a blank, you're going to get maybe a bet that comes out, and then you're in a really tough spot because you're multi-way and you've got to deal with the guy behind you. Whereas if you make a bet here, you have immediate fold equity against better hands, and then you might be able to realize equity with a natural check coming to you on the turn. But I might size down. I might go like 125 to 150, something like that.
Yeah. The problem with sizing down is these guys will check raise with like absolute, garbage, just because they'll think that, I got nothing. They'll check raise with a 10.
They'll interpret that as weakness if you bet like 100. Yeah, I mean that.
Yeah,
can
they'll
be,
check raise with
definitely
8-10, or
Yeah, that definitely can be tricky. I remember that from the PKC days when I was playing against Chinese players last year. It's just, if you bet anything less than say 30% of pot, you're just going to get raised. And to be honest with you, if you transport yourself back to like the mid 2000s, it would be the same thing. People just didn't bet that small, and when they did, they were weak, so people would just raise them. Okay, so you bet 187.
Yeah. So I ended up betting, but because it's kind of a good flop, and also because I thought that people can have all kinds of total garbage that they can't hold on to. But as I said, fold equity, not a whole lot of fold equity, so I bet on everybody calls.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So now the pot is all of a sudden 11-20, and the turn is deuce of hearts.
Okay.
So it doesn't put anything. It's a brick, and it gets checked to me again. And at this point, I decided to check, because I thought when everybody called me, I think at this point, I don't think I can bet. I don't know. I thought that I have to check now.
I mean, in general, you would think. Here's the thing. What's kind of interesting here is that if you don't think that somebody's sandbagging you, especially if you had bet sort of a little bit on the smaller side and you didn't get raised, which would mean that no one has two pair, then this is one of the biggest bricks in the deck, right? And like if you bet 700 or 800, and the best hand that somebody has is Queen Jack, you might get it through. With that being said, though, still you're betting into three people. I mean, I think that the logical thing would be, you probably don't fire another barrel. But I have done this against two people though, and you can leverage the guy in the middle quite a bit, right? You know what I mean? If you think that he's calling light, like some guy in the middle, because he's got to worry about the guy behind you. But I think checking is fine. So you check.
Yeah, I checked, and I mean, to be honest with you, like, I don't think anybody's folding a jack. Like, I know what you're saying, and it would be pretty much crazy to call like with a Queen Jack, but I don't think anybody's folding a Queen Jack, unless like maybe if I like pot it or something, that's a huge bet, then they might, maybe, but that's, So I checked, and the button, who's the main villain and the most kind of maniacal player, he bets now half pot, just 675.
So the button, who's maniacal, bets 675. Okay.
Right, and he's so just again to add a little context, he's maniacal pre-flop, but I've noticed, and he's like always three betting like pre-flop, but post-flop he's more, he's gonna like sometimes bet third, but then basically check, go for showdown. So he's not like crazy maniacal. He's capable of crazy bluffs, but he's not that maniacal post-flop. But not folding much either, but he bets half pot, right? And the limper and the straddle and the limper folds, so it folds to me. So button bets half pot 675 folds to me. So at this point I think that's a pretty easy call, because basically I'm getting the odds, right?
Well, so by the way, who did you say was stuck? Did you say somebody was stuck?
The button, the main villain, who's the button? He's stuck 10K,
Oh man, if he's stuck 10K, yeah. Well, what I was gonna say is, and you're 4,400 effective. What I was gonna say is, and I know you emailed this hand in, so I don't necessarily remember the river. Is that I try to have a plan for this case. Is like he's betting half the size of the pot. It's 1,800, 675 for you to call. Some people would just say even it's just a fold, but if you stick in just like a random Jack X in his range and you're getting 3-1, it's probably pretty close. But I like to have a plan sometimes to bluff upfront spades here, because if you check call 675 and a spade comes in, and you think a button doesn't have a spade, and usually the button's not going to have a spade draw when he bets, because if you put yourself in this sort of, hand reading, and not that you necessarily, people out-level themselves all the time. Like, you don't always want to put yourself in the button's shoes, but I think that we can actually draw a parallel here, even if it was us. If we have a spade draw, right, and we're the button, and we call the flop, and then two people call behind us, aren't we taking a card a lot on the turn? Like, I would say 80 to 90% of the spade draws are going to take a card on the turn if they're the button. I don't think they're betting 675 into three people. So he doesn't have many spade draws when he bets the turn, because he would check behind with them. So if a spade comes and he just has a jack, although it's more unlikely because it's multi-way, but is going to slow play like two pair or a set. You see what I'm saying? We wouldn't expect that from a limper as like the third overcaller on the flop, but bluff a spade. I don't know. What's the river? Yeah. What's the river?
Well, right. So before we get to the river, so, I was thinking like he probably has a jack minimum. Like, he's got it. Like if he had, I think he would take a card with anything else, and he's got a jack minimum. But he can have anything. But I was just thinking, when he bets half pot, right? We need 4.5 to 1. Mm-hmm. So, and we're getting like 3 to 1 immediately, and like pretty deep. So with implied odds, I think that's basically with a straight draw, like not even looking at the overcards as being an out. Like even if they're not, right? I think it's a pretty easy call, right? Just with the implied odds and the immediate odds we're getting, right? So I ended up calling. And it's funny you say that. The river is a spade, of course. It's a 5 of spades. So the river, so the pot now is 24.75, right? Mm-hmm. And the river is a 5 of spades. And so now in the river, the question is, so I paused and I was thinking that, well, basically, like, should we try to represent, spades, as you said? And I was thinking, like, well, does that make sense? And I look at my hand, and basically I have a draw. Like, so if I had a spade draw, I'd probably play it the same way, right? So yeah. I kind of have the exact hand that I can try to represent. But then, I don't have any spades in my hand. You kind of answered it already, I guess. But considering in situations like this, what do you typically do? You try to go for it, or you think it's just not worth it?
Oh, I don't know if he's going to be able to fold. So, I think you sort of answered your own question a little bit, right? It's just one of these things.
If we do go for it, like, what should the sizing be? Like, should it be like a gigantic? If we try to, represent space, should we go like?
The pot is what, 2,400, and you've got
and we got like 3,400 left.
More like a bluff, and I don't know. I would try to make this look like value in some way. That it might actually get really have just like ace king here. If I was on the button's perspective, that would be like, is this guy like basically bluffing here with ace king, something like that. So what'd you end up doing?
Yeah, I ended up just giving up because I just basically didn't have the balls to try to bluff a guy who stuck 10K and showed propensity to call with anything. So I just checked, and he quickly checked back Jack 9 offsuit, no spades.
Oh,
so
wow, Jack 9 offsuit.
Yeah.
So do you think you would have gotten it through?
I don't know. Like, let me put it this way. Like, if he wasn't stuck, I think I may have, because he's, but just because he was stuck so much, you know how it is. Like, all right, I'm stuck 10K. Here's 2 more. Just take it. Show me. Like, they just call because whatever. What's 2 more when I'm stuck 10? Like, the logic doesn't apply sometimes in those cases. They're not thinking in terms of the hand reading, but just like whatever. If I'm losing, I'm losing. Here's more. So, like, I've done that in the past, and like versus the wrong guy, like who's stuck, and it usually never goes through. So I was like, I don't think I can pull the trigger. I couldn't pull the trigger. So, but obviously, look at his hand. Like he can't beat almost anything, right?
Yeah.
So.
Anyways, no, I appreciate the call, Gene.
All right.
As always.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Take care.
All right. All right. I know for some reason that some people are having buffering issues, so I don't understand why I have these issues, because I have wired 1 gig download internet speed with 40 gigabytes up. So I don't know. Maybe it's possibly the streaming program, which is weird because I use a commercial program called Wirecast for Apple. But I don't know. If I've got some time, I'll try to mitigate these issues for next week. But yeah, usually the stream is okay, but I can see. Let me see if I can try to change the. Let me see if I can try to change the output settings here to a much lower resolution. Let's see. 720 by YouTube. Okay. Encoder. The video display rate is less than the encoder display rate. What does that mean? Video display rate is less than the encoder display rate. Oh. Encoder. I know this is thrilling for you guys. Fuck. Okay, let me try. I know you guys are like just itching to hear Steven here, which I'm gonna try to do here in a second. 1250. Okay. Huh. I don't know what the fuck is going on with this thing. All right. Anyways, let's. No, I'm not on Wi-Fi. Guys, I'm on Wi-Fi. Jesus Christ. Let me just try one other thing. 7.2.264. Damn it. Motherfuckers. Ugh. Oh, they're killing me here. All right, guys. All right, I'm going to have to go to Steven. All right. Let's go to Steven, I believe. Yes. Steven, hello.
Hello.
How you doing, Steven?
Okay.
Good. All right. So Steven, of course, was one of the guys, or was the guy that we featured on a YouTube video from a few weeks ago where you walked the dog with Andy, right?
Yes, somewhat.
So you've got another hand here from that session here from Live at the Bike. Is that right? Not from Live at the Bike, but from At the Bike. Is that right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
it happened before the hand with Andy.
Okay, so it happened before the hand with Andy. Okay, cool. So set this up for us.
Okay, so I was sitting in a 10-20 game, which I'd never played that big before.
Okay.
We're five-handed with my friend and I and three regulars, shall we say.
Yep.
And hands are going very quickly, and I'm bleeding off chips pretty quickly.
Okay.
So I'm down about 400.
Okay.
And a player, Keith, came in.
Yep.
And he said that he had been playing at the Commerce and was up about 10K.
Okay.
And sat down in the game. And this was either his first or second hand in the game.
Now, this is Keith, Keefe. So some people might not be 100% because he hasn't played in quite some time, right? Or he hasn't played on the and you've got D'Antonio, Alex, right, at the table.
Yeah, they're there. Yeah.
600. Okay, cool.
And there's no top and no bottom to his range.
Okay.
60.
Okay.
The next player folded. I was in middle position, which is the same as the cutoff with six people. And I had ace queen off. I thought about three betting, but was not prepared to call a four bet.
Okay.
So I just called.
So just call. So Keith opens to 60, and Hero just calls in mid position with ace queen offsuit. And you said you're like five-handed, right? 5 or 6-handed right now, something like that.
We're six-handed.
Six-handed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the three people behind all fold.
Right. Okay.
So we go to and there's 150 in the pot.
Yep.
We go to a flop of queen, queen, 8.
Queen, queen, 8. So you decide to flat with ace queen offsuit against Keefe, Keefe, his opening range. Now, you are an older gentleman, right? I know that you were 78 or 79 when this happened. Some people are saying, "Oh, why?"
I was 79. Yeah.
79. Had you aged 1 year between the last hand, or you were 79 during the last
No,
hand
I was
too?
79. I was 79 then.
Yeah, you were 79
I'm
then.
82 now.
And you're 82 now. Oh, okay, cool. So, I mean, five-handed, you're basically like in essence like in the cutoff, I would say, right? Because and people are saying, well,
yeah.
you know, why not behind you on the button? But if anybody listened to the call that we had before, so that's the case sometimes for flatting. So you go heads up on the board.
Despite what I expected, Keith checks.
Okay.
Because he'd taken control of the hand, and I expected him to c-bet at about 2/3 pot, 110.
Okay, so check, Hero bets 110. Okay. And I honestly, I mean, you could probably go either way with this. I mean, you could probably either check it back. Maybe he thinks that you've missed something. Or, you know, you could bet really, really small. I tend to like roping them in. I tend to like what you did, sort of walking the dog a little bit from last call, where I very well might check this one back. But okay, you bet 110.
And he calls.
Okay, so he calls, so that's good. So now it's
So
270.
now the pot is
or
370.
Yep.
And the turn is an ace.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you've got a full house.
Yes.
Okay.
He checked again,
Okay.
and I did a similar type bet of 220.
So now you bet sort of in between. That's interesting. 220. What did you think that Keefe had when he check called the flop? Steven.
The problem is trying to put him on a hand is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen him play recklessly.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen him jam 5K with a 7-deuce off.
Right.
So I'm hoping he's going to do something like that to me.
So you're actually right. So you're betting to try to get raised here, basically on the turn. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
I just tend to think that when you have the whole board covered, if I were you, again, with that image, that I might do a little more roping here, or like you call it, like walking the dog, because yes, it's possible that he may have check called with ace high on the flop. You obviously have an ace in your hand, so it's less likely when an ace comes on the turn that actually helped his hand, because you have an ace. You have an unbeatable hand, and that's not necessarily a reason to slow play like some people think, but I just wonder if there's some cases where a guy like this, and I was kind of familiar with him, might be sort of check calling you to take it away later on in the hand. And by betting here on what would seem to be a scare card, if you held like pocket 9s, pocket 10s, you just kind of let him off the hook. Like he might just fold. Whereas if you checked this back, so if you bet the flop and checked back the turn, well, he would think, oh, well, this guy doesn't have a queen, right? He would continue to bet the turn. This guy's scared of the ace. I'm going to take the bullshit 5-6 suited that I've called the flop with as a float on queen, queen 8, and I'm going to bluff the river. That might be the way that I think about it. So I might, if I was in your spot, have either checked back the flop, or if I bet the flop, I might check back the turn and then raise the river. But you bet 220, okay? And now what did he do?
He made it 1,200.
He raised to 1,200. Wow. Raised to 1,200. Okay. Well, I mean,
the only hand I'm losing to is pocket aces.
yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, obviously it's hard to screw this hand up now, but when he makes it 1,200, if you just call, the pot's going to be like maybe right around 3,000, and you've got maybe another, say, 12 or 1,300 left. I actually don't see a point in shoving here, Steven. I mean, listen, you can shove here. It can't be that bad. You only have like 1,000 or 1,100 left in your stack if you started with 26. And, well, you guys have put in, what, maybe 200. You have 24. You'd have about 1,200 left in your stack if you shoved all in. And, you know, the pot would be like, what is it, 6, 18. You know, he'd be getting like 4-1. But he might be one of these young hotshots that just can't help himself. And even if you just call, we know there's probably no hand that you're going to call and then fold to a river raise. If you leave yourself with 1,200, he might continue on with some asinine bluff and bluff his stack off to you. That's maybe the way that I'd be thinking about this spot, where I might just call.
Yeah, it's just that I can never call off half my stack.
Why not, though? You mean because it looks like because you're never gonna fold? You mean, right? Once you call it off, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you would think that some of these young guys would be smart enough to figure that out. I might go so far as to say is this particular villain might not, because I've seen him run some ridiculous bluffs before where it's like, Keith, the guy doesn't have any more money left. Of course he's going to call, but you're just going to bluff it off anyways. He check raised the turn. You check raised him on the turn, and he called your 1,200, and he only has 1,100 left. Do you think he's really going to fold when you raise with Jack 10 offsuit, when you turn like a double gutter on the turn, you know, when the river's a deuce, but he just does it anyways. Whereas if you just shove now, he might fold that hand. It sounded to me like maybe you shoved, Steven. Did you shove?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, that can't be that bad. What happened? So you shove.
He calls.
Yeah.
And he turns over Queen 10 suited.
So he's drawing dead to a chop.
Yeah.
That would suck if another ace didn't come out, did it?
No, and ace doesn't help it.
You're right. You would think as a poker trainer that I could read the board. You're right. An ace wouldn't help him because you would win with aces full, right? He's drawing dead.
The only thing that helps him is if the deck is fouled and some fouled card.
Right. The only thing that helps him is if another queen comes at the end. And the deck is no good. So that got you off to your win, right? And then you had the hand with Andy.
Yeah.
So do you think, would you have played this hand differently in any way, like looking back at it?
I really don't think so.
Okay.
Because it's against any other player, yes.
Mm-hmm. But not against him.
After he just sat down talking about the fact that he just won 10K.
Oh, you think he's just gonna? Yeah, I like I said. I mean, I don't know the next time you go to LA, and we talked about this before, that this is probably not maybe the safest thing for anybody to do, but much less an 82-year-old to go back to live poker. But I will say, when I was younger, I would look at sort of an older player and be like, well, this guy's going to be weak tight. You know, if he puts pressure on me, I'm probably going to fold. So those guys would sometimes trap me. Now, I probably wouldn't make a maniacal bet like a Keefe or something like that and do something crazy stupid. But you know, it's possible that that he might have done something sort of out to left field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just don't see. I didn't see on the river how he could fold if he could make that raise.
Uh-huh. Anyway, Steven, I appreciate it. I hope you call back with some more hands too, as well. Everybody loved the last one that you did, so thanks for the call. And
Okay, thank you.
All right, last caller here is going to be 660. 660, you are up, sir. Hello.
Hey, Bart, you hear me?
Hey, yes, I can. How's it going?
Okay, good. So I emailed you an interesting hand. I don't think I played it great and just wanted your opinion.
Okay,
so,
cool.
And I actually emailed you with wrong effective stacks. I was looking back. I had about 1,100. I'm in the small blind.
Okay.
Under the gun raises to $12. He's got about 280.
So what's the size of the game and where are you playing at?
It's 1-2 live, no limit, and it's at Harrah's in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, I just stayed there.
Pretty good poker room. And it's right after income tax, so.
Yeah, I just stayed there. When the hell did I go to Kansas City? Sometime like in when did I go? So when I came down here, I think it was like in October or something like that.
It's a nice hotel.
Yeah.
Nice facility.
1-2 no limit Harris KC, 1,100 effective, and who raised to 12?
Under the gun.
Okay, under the gun raises to 12.
He's got 286.
Okay.
Folds around to me in a small blind. I have black sevens.
Okay.
I just call.
Yep.
Big blind completes, and he has me covered.
Okay, so you and the big blind are deep.
I'm
deep
in
for the
small
game.
blind.
Right, you and the big blind are deep, right? Like at 1,100.
Yeah, very. The whole table's pretty deep. Actually,
Okay.
the under the gun is the short stack.
Right, and this is like a match the stack game,
It's about 4
right?
a.m.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So pot's 36. The flop is 10 of spades, 3 of diamond, 2 of spades.
10 of spades, 3 of diamonds, 2 of spades. Okay.
And I check,
All right.
and everyone checks behind.
So checks.
No action on the flop.
Okay.
Turn is 7 of hearts.
Turn is the 7 of hearts. Okay. By the way, I'm going to do something here because I want to test this. I'm just talking out loud here, caller, because we were having some buffering problems. So I just switched the quality, and I want to see what happens here. If this goes out in real time in the stream, and then Anita can edit this out, and I'll edit this out for the show as well. So, okay. So 10 of spades, 3 of diamonds, deuce of spades, checks through. What's the turn?
7 of hearts.
7 of hearts. Okay. So you turn a set.
Turn a set. Yep.
Great. Okay.
With no money in the pot.
Yep.
So
well, you're gonna. I mean,
24.
well, I mean, there's $36 in there, right? It's better than the first call.
Right.
I don't know if you caught that, where it was just basically limped around. You know.
I did. that hand is actually pretty similar to this one, kind of.
Yeah, because
Boards
it was 7-7. Yeah, yeah.
So I
go
bet
ahead.
$24.
You bet 24.
And they both called.
All right, so Hero bets 24, call. So again, this is a situation where the big blind has naturally checked to the under the gun on the flop, right? And the under the gun is checked through. Now the turn is a 7, and the big blind is basically has an unknown range. With you guys being this deep, I feel like I very well might try to go for a check raise here against the big blind, because if he bets off, we're trying to build some money. With that being said, I've seen people get more money in by betting and then having a hand call you that would otherwise either not bet on the turn or fold to a check raise. So it's probably pretty close. I'm just looking for creative things to get money in the pot. You know what I'm saying? But wow, you bet 24 and they both call back. No, and it's totally rainbow board, right? 10 of spades, 3 of diamonds, deuce of spades. Well, front door spades, basically.
There's a spade draw, but no,
right.
no flush out there.
So now the pot's like 108, right?
Right.
Okay, let's go to the river.
3 of spades.
The river is the 3 of spades. Okay.
So I'm hoping for a raise here. I bet 85.
So you bet 85 here at the end. So hero bets 85. Okay. Into 108. This is interesting. So the front door spades come in, right, at the end?
Right.
Well, I mean, here's the thing.
Sevens full and the spades came in, yeah.
Right, you got sevens full and the spades come in. I wouldn't really expect the pre-flop raiser to have a flush here when he doesn't bet off on the flop all that much. The big blind can have a flush here, by calling the turn. I don't really want to get overly tricky with this one. I think betting is fine, and maybe you just go for a little bit larger sizing the way that you've played it. So you bet 24 on the turn, call. Maybe I bet 100 here at the end. And the reason why I don't want to go for a check raise here is because I think there is a much wider range of hands that will call a bet than will bet and definitely call to a check raise. Like, you could get the big blind to call you with 10x, but if you check the river, he's going to check, and then it just gets checked down, and then you feel like an asshole, right? So I don't mind it. I might try to bet a little bit larger at the end. Okay. So what ended up happening?
So the big blind raises to 250.
Oh, okay. Big blind raises. So the big blind raises to 250. Okay.
Right.
And
really, like you said, I have no range on him because, I mean, he called 12 pre, checks the flop, calls my 24. So and then the under the gun snap calls, which is all in for him. He had basically 250 left.
Okay, let's replay this because this is really interesting now. So this is similar to that other call, actually. So 1,100 effective with this guy in the big blind. Heroes in the small blind. This guy off a 286 stack. This is at 1-2 in Kansas City. Guy with 286 from under the gun makes it 12. Gets folded around the hero. Hero calls with sevens in the small blind. The big blind calls. The pot is the flop is 10 of spades, 3 of diamonds, deuce of spades. It gets checked through. The turn is the 7 of hearts, giving you second set 10-3 deuce 7. Pot's 36. You bet 24. They both call. Okay, now the pot's 108. The river's the 3 of spades, so it brings in the front door spade draw, pairs the 3. You bet 85. Big blind raises to 250. Under the gun calls all in, basically, right? So
right.
What I was gonna say is that if let's say that the under the gun did not call all in, I think you have to play for stacks here against the big blind. I think I put in the third bet against the big blind because I think that the big blind could have like the nut flush here.
Right.
It's not always that the guy is just going to call with a nut flush just because the board is paired, and he might have any flush. It's not like you bet. It's not like you overbet. You bet 85. And I think if I had the nut flush there and I was the big blind, I probably would raise. Although you might see me raise fold, but these guys are incapable of raise folding. But it's interesting because the under the gun calls all in. So trying to think about, like, what does that guy have? Does he have the flush? And this other guy in the big blind actually has a stronger hand. Or does that guy, was he sandbagging like 10-10? Although that's unlikely because you'd think he would jam the turn.
I thought that it confused me because he's an older guy too. The big blind is about 70 years old. And the under the gun's about 55. So when the when he raises the 250, I'm thinking, okay, he might have like a nut spade. And then when the under the gun calls so quick, I'm like, well, shoot, he might have the nut spades. And then what the heck does this guy have?
So you said the big blind is like 55, is that right?
No, sorry. The big blind is like 70.
Oh,
So
wow.
he's an old guy. So kind of.
I mean, I really want to put in the third bet here. I mean, I think if I was heads up, even if the guy was 70 years old, I might put in the third bet. But for the reasons I think you stated, when the under the gun calls all in, something weird is going on where it's the under the gun that has a flush and you beat him, or you're going to lose the under the gun somehow. And it doesn't matter because now the pot's going to be shipped to him. That's far less likely than the fact that the under the gun actually might have a flush. And then if the under the gun has a flush, now you're looking at this and you're like, well, what is the... But the only thing you lose to is 10-10, right? 10-10 and 3-3. You would think that
10-10 and 3-3.
But don't those hands raise the turn some of the time, though?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, how... So I'm thinking if the big blind there has 10-10 or 3-3 or any set, when I bet the turn, there's going to be a raise, especially with a spade draw out there.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no raise.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just so confused. I tanked.
I gotta tell you, I think it's actually close. I think in the heat of the moment, I probably would just raise. And it's debatable. I think it's very, very close with that third player. Did you just call?
I did call.
Okay. And what were the hands?
So under the gun, the short stack had a nut flush. And he showed first, and I'm like, oh, shit, I'm done. And then...
Well, of course, you beat him, though, right? You beat him.
I beat him, yes, correct.
By the way, also, before you reveal here, caller, I think something else needs to be pointed out, too. You beat some full houses here. Now, I don't know how wide the guy's completing in the big blind, but what if he has, like, 3 deuce suited or some shit like that? Right.
Right. And then he turned the big blind, who I did not raise, turns over pocket deuces.
Oh, or pocket deuces. Yeah, there's another one. Deuce, too.
Deuces full. So I scooped the pot, but did not get value.
Now,
like
I will tell you that there is no way in hell that the big blind is ever raised folding. That's one of the things that, so that's why I kind of feel like on the surface, I'm like, I just want to jam here anyways. I don't know why I didn't pop out to me deuce, but yeah, you beat deuce here too. I mean, yeah, you lose to 10-10 and you lose to 3-3, right? That's 4 combos. You beat deuce.
I had third nut. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if he ever has like a hand like 7-3, I mean, who knows how wide these guys are, completing in the big blind, but yeah, that one feels a little bit dirty, right?
The old man said that if I jammed for stacks, he was going to fold, but I don't believe it.
I don't believe it. I don't believe that either. I don't buy it. Some people are saying, could you just kind of min raise? I don't really see the point in min raising because I think the jam's going to get called. So I
thought about the min raise too, though. But the min raise, like I'm concerned with 3-3 and 10-10 here. So if I min raise and he shoves, it puts me at another decision, which I might as well just jam if it's a jam or call.
It's not that you're min raise folding. It's just that you're, I
trying
guess
to get him.
You could go down some rabbit hole. Really, you're gonna. I'm not saying you, caller, but talking to people in the chat. You're gonna 3-bet the river at 1-2. 3-bet fold the river for value, right? 85 to 250. And then click it back up to like 435 and then shove for and then fold for like 500 more. That'd be pretty sophisticated. I don't know if that play's ever actually happened in the history of live poker. The 3-bet fold on the river at 1-2. I will tell you, I have check raise folded at 510 before on the river. Check raise folded for value at 510, but to 3-bet fold is crazy. So if you throw that out, I just think that the hands that are going to call a min raise are going to call the shove, so you might as well shove, which is kind of consistent with what you were saying, right? But that's a fun hand.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us. Sorry about the little buffering problems. I'm going to try to look into that and see. Did my little test do anything here? Did this go back down from 720p? No, not yet. It's just so weird, man. I mean, I'm actually closing on a house in a few weeks. And I just realized that when I started recording this, that my settings got changed to streaming out at 1920 by 1080, but actually it's not. It's streaming out at 720p. So I just don't understand why sometimes we have these buffering issues when I have great internet. But yeah, I mean, I'm moving to this house that I'm buying in a few weeks anyways, but I bought some RAM too. Now I'm going to have 128 gigs of RAM on my Mac too. I don't know if that's going to help anything, or maybe I'll just switch to like OBS, even though I'm paying for Wirecast. It's just crazy. But thank you guys for sticking around with me. And again, you know, if you want to submit for the show, do so by emailing Bart at crushlive.com.
Superstar DJs.
And check out TCH Live
Here we
tonight.
go.
Live streaming tonight,
Hey, girl.
starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you next week, guys. Bye-bye.